up, y'all?
Welcome to my crib. So today we'll be talking about Bob Marley and his influence in the 1970s, covering the topics of his advocacy for peace, repatriation to Africa, and the legalization of the marijuana. Welcome to my crib.
Now, unfortunately, Jamaica has had a very long and treacherous history of oppression. Since the beginning of Jamaica's existence, it has had a very tumultuous history. Slaves and ex-slaves have been at the bottom of the society and have been the most affected by this turmoil. Leonard E. Barrett describes Jamaica's history
as one long tale of sad intrigue, human suffering, lawlessness, and immoral profit, at the center of which were the African slaves, the ancestors of present-day Jamaicans.
There was still violence happening in the 1970s, however, and this was mainly because of the conflicts between the PNP, which was the People's National Party, and the JLP, which is the Jamaican Labour Party. These two political parties were at combat, such, kind of like the Democrats and Republicans, but in Jamaica, there were being wars held, like gang wars, street violence, all these different things between the two political parties, and it got so violent that it was hard to, even walk outside your door if you were in the wrong neighborhoods. And in the midst of all this stuff, Bob Marley was coming to prominence.
Peter Dalton remarks that Bob Marley's messages of strength and social unity were potent, and the time was right. By the mid-70s, rock had lost its sense of rebellion, and Marley's was the revolutionary voice to shock the complacency of Anglo-American music.
Now, one of the ways he did that was through his concerts. The first concert that I want to talk about is the second most influential in Bob Marley's career. In 1976, Bob Marley was returning home from a tour to find his country in distress. Michael Manley, the leader of the People's National Party, had been oppressing and imprisoning hundreds of the supporters of the JLP in order to, keep his power. So at that point, Bob Marley had to ask his permission to do the concert in the first place. And as soon as Michael Manley granted him permission, he announced that his election would be 2 weeks later. This move made it seem like Bob Marley was in favor of Michael Manley and was supporting him.
But in actuality, he just was trying to promote peace. What can I say?
On December the 3rd, 2 nights before the concert, Marley's house was ambushed and shot at. He received a bullet in his arm, and 2 of his friends who were at the house were in critical condition. However, Bob Marley chose to do the concert anyway, knowing he was risking his life, but still standing up for peace. Coming to my beautifully furnished living room, I'd like to discuss with you what many believe to be Bob Marley's most influential concert. In 1978, Jamaica's Labour Party, led by Edward Seaga, and the People's National Party, led by Michael Manley, were at war. In this war, however, they were using local gang lords to fuel it and to fight against each other. Now, these local gang lords somehow ended up in the same cell in prison, and while in that cell, they were like,
yo man, they're using us. We should come together and unite and create peace because our people are hurting.
So, as soon as they get released, they fly to Britain, where Bob Marley at the time resides, and ask him to come back home and do a concert promoting peace for their country. And thus we have the Bob Marley Peace Concert of 1978. Gary Steckles describes it
as the concert that would forever define Bob Marley's stature as a symbol of peace and universal brotherhood, and confirm beyond any reasonable doubt that his status as one of the greatest figures ever to emerge from the melting pot of humanity we call the Caribbean.
Now, one of the most important times of this concert was while Bob Marley was singing his song One Love. If you're not familiar with the song, here it goes.
One love, one heart, let's get together and feel alright.
this song, he did something very iconic, if you will. He invites both of the leaders from both parties, MCY Ake and Michael Manley, to come on stage and join hands. And this is the direct quote. It reads,
To make everything come true, we've got to be together, yeah. To show the people that you love them right, to show the people that you're going to unite, show the people that you're over bright, show the people that everything is alright. I'm not so good at talking, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say, could we have up here on stage, here the presence of Mr. Michael Manley and Mr. MCY Ake. I just want to shake hands and show the people that we're going to unite and we're going to make it right. We're going to unite, we're going to make it right.
here we have the picture to prove that he did so. Here we have Bob Marley, we have Michael Manley, and we have MCY Ake. Isn't that a beautiful photo? Just shows you the power that music can bring forth. Alright, so I think that's it for the living room. So let me make the couches nice. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna take this with me. Now, other than his concerts promoting peace, Bob Marley also promoted the repatriation to Africa, which was a big belief, if you will, in the Rastafarianism culture. Now, as we go into my dining room, the idea of repatriation to Africa is one that derives back from Rastafarianism's roots, from who many believe as a major prophet of Rastafarianism, Marcus Garvey. In the 1920s, Marcus Garvey began publishing articles that implied that a black king was going to emerge from Africa. In fact, Leonard E. Barrett Sr. reports that
Soon before Garvey left Jamaica due to political problems, he was reported to have said, "Look to Africa for the crowning of a black king. He shall be the redeemer."
the followers of Garvey took these sayings to heart and began looking for their redeemer. This king arrived in 1930 when the Ethiopian king, Ras Tafari, don't know if I pronounced that right, but obviously from whom the name derives, was crowned king. What made this crowning even more significant to Garvey's followers was the name that he took. He took the name Haile Selassie, which means might of the Trinity. He also added the King of Kings and the Lion of the tribe of Judah, claiming that he was in direct lineage from King Solomon. So you can see where they might, get that belief from. Bob Marley was very vocal about his belief in repatriation to Africa, and he displayed this through various interviews and also his songs. He describes his sentiment for this king.
Emperor Selassie, who is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords and the Conqueror, the Lion of the tribe of Judah.
Through these various avenues, Bob Marley successfully spread the message of repatriation of reggae to his Rastafarian people. Along with the interviews, he also wrote numerous songs describing this feeling of needing to go back home, such as
Africa unite, 'cause we're moving right out of Babylon, and we're going to our father's land.
So through his interviews as well as songs, Bob Marley used his voice to advocate for repatriation.
Leaving the dining room, I'd like to take you to my bedroom.
One of the last things I'll be discussing today is a topic that was very close and dear to Bob Marley. And he talked about it in his interviews as well as his songs. The topic is, I'll tell you about that in a second.
Welcome to my bedroom.
Rastafarianism is a religion that believes in marijuana as a wisdom weed, and they view it as holy smoke, and even quote scriptures from the Bible to justify their consumption. According to Rasta lore, the holy smoke helps the righteous attain a state of duration, the highest level of existence where no falsehood intrudes. They believe that when they smoke and partake of the herb, a third eye is opened and they can see the world clearly how God wants them to. In an interview with a Canadian journalist, Bob Marley said,
Herb is the healing of the nation. You mean they can tell God that it's not legal?
He also has various songs on the topic.
I'm gonna smoke the ganja until I go blind.
For the conclusion of your tour, I'd like to take you into my favorite room.
The studio. See the bling here? You know what I'm saying? Got a nice setup. All the doodads and stuff.
So, what did we learn today? Bob Marley was very influential in the 1970s. In his music and his interviews, advocating for peace, repatriation to Africa, and the legalization of marijuana. This has been MTV Cribs with your host, Imari Conway. Y'all gotta go home.
But y'all gotta get out of here.